Hey, thank you for listening and subscribing, and welcome to this review series of Right, Wrong, or Indifferent. Today we're going to be talking about Jocko Podcast, so let's dive right into it. The basics of this podcast is Jocko is an ex-Navy SEAL, and he has his own self-help business, except it's more for businesses, So it's business self-help. He comes in and trains leaders how to be better leaders for their people. He really tries to talk about people and what it means to influence them and not manipulate them per se, but to, influence them in positive directions so the company can benefit too. He doesn't just look at people like numbers, although he does look at the numbers. He's a realist in all things. I really enjoy listening to his podcast just for that reason alone. He'll tell you how it is. He's like, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. But he knows you can't get it just from a book. He knows you just can't and know the secrets of life or how to be a Navy SEAL. You have to go out and apply those things and learn from them as you apply them. And he really lives by that example, and he promotes that. We can read every self-help book or every business book in the world, but it doesn't mean anything unless you actually go out and do it. And that's a lot of what Jocko talks about. He really drives home the fact that, again, we can sit here and have all these great conversations, but if you don't go out and act on it, if you don't go make your own podcast, if you don't start getting up in the morning and working out, if you don't start cleaning up your diet, if you don't start treating your people like people, bad things are going to happen. And it's going to be your fault, and it's your responsibility. And it's your responsibility as a person to mitigate those types of things as much as you can, especially in a business environment. Not only does he talk about those types of things, I do generally consider a lot of his information more personal, business information even. The things he talks about, for me, come from a personal place as far as how I handle situations and how I talk to people and things like that. And he brings an example from, I don't want to say it's like a practical wartime example, but he's applied these things in real life in almost the most extreme situations. And so if you're applying these types of rules and these types of philosophies to real life situations, and they're working out for you, you can probably apply these in smaller situations and they'll probably still work out as well. Sometimes they're painful though. Sometimes it hurts, and that's he expects that. That's kind of the general consensus, consensus. That's just the general kind of vibe from Jocko that I get. But what I really, really enjoy from Jocko is his war stories. He'll actually read books that I've never heard of and about people who I've never heard of and bring their stories to light. And I love the the personal touch that you kind of start to see in these war books and these memoirs of people who've experienced these crazy things. And although these things are horrible things, it's important that we talk about them and we learn from them, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Because when I see these things, when I hear these stories, I hear them and it almost feels like they're relatable in the most unrelatable sense, because I am not in the military and I've never fought in war, but it almost brings comfort that the things that you're doing in your life can mean something when the shit hits the fan. And that is where you get a lot of power from, where I get a lot of power from, is that I know that when things go bad, I can keep control of myself and learn from the example of these other people. His mindset's very good too. Jocko's mindset, I've tried to emulate some of it in some of his things. I don't always agree with what he says as far as mindset goes and how he feels about exercise and things like that. The thing is, though, he's doing it. And how do you even take away from that? You cannot. If he's out there crushing it and waking up 4:30 every morning doing it, then I should be too, if I'm comparing myself or complaining about, my state. So some of the basics for this podcast is that it's mostly going to be military stuff, but they're going to be life lessons for everybody. So if you could kind of get over the military kind of way he does things, the way he talks, then you'll really enjoy the podcast, because I feel like there is a little bit of something for everybody almost in every episode. The audience can be anybody. I would like to think that vets returning from home can find some comfort in these podcasts, because I feel like as a society we don't do a lot of good, we don't integrate these people back to society well. I feel like a part of what Jocko does is trying to reach out to those people and say, hey, not so much just look at me, look at what I'm doing, but hey, look at me, come along for the ride. We can do this together. Even though he is ex-military and he's a Navy SEAL and he's a hard guy, he's more compassionate than he lets off. He wants people to do better. He wants people to be the best version of themselves, and that includes the vets coming back from war. And that's a good message, and that's something I think that all of us can kind of get on board with whenever we're thinking about who we want to support or who we want to listen to, who's bringing value to the table, not only in our lives, but other people's as well. So I hope the people I hope veterans who need that podcast are getting it. If you're listening to this now and you're thinking of someone in mind who might benefit from that podcast, I would recommend go ahead and shooting that over to him right away. Any of the ones will really, really do. He's very straightforward in all of them. Personally, I just like the war stories one. I just really enjoy hearing him talk about the different types of things that people have to go through in life to be successful, and that's the extreme. So vets can have a good perspective from that podcast. I think that anyone can too. It's not necessarily as much entertainment as it is critical. It's more of a critical thinking exercise for me. So I often listen to Jocko early in the morning when I'm kind of gearing up for my day, looking for something to kind of wrap my head around that's more serious than just fun things like exercise or even recording my podcast. He helps me get a little bit more serious about things that I need to think about, talk about, and improve on. So that's why I think I'm a great audience, and anyone really who wants that type of critical thinking, I think, will enjoy his podcast. They are about over an hour each, but he dives into a bunch of different topics, and I would say they're applicable to just about everyone's life. But maybe you should check it out and see what you think, and you be the judge of that. I really like the show. I've been watching it now listening to it for about a year. The pros are great stories, awesome valuable information as far as self-help and business help goes. Extreme ownership is something to live by if you don't live by it. Again, let me say that out loud. Extreme ownership is something to live by if you don't live by it. It can really rectify a lot of issues in your life, and if you apply it right away, you will see the holes that you're creating in your own life, because you'll understand, I actually am responsible for this. I actually am responsible for this person in my life not being the best they can be. But what does that look like? That's the question. The question isn't at this point, am I responsible when you apply extreme ownership, is what type of ownership do I have to help this person move forward? That's what I really like about the show. Also, again, the military history is incredible. Cons for the show can be maybe it's a little cut and dry for people who don't enjoy military type of conversation. I like the no fuss, no muss about it. Jocko's straight to the point. He's not going to sugarcoat it for you. But he's also not just going to tell you to suffer completely either. It's practical suffering, if that's such a thing, which I do believe there is. And maybe some of them are a little long. You are over an hour almost every podcast, so they can kind of get stuck on different topics. But that just kind of comes when, again, we talk about how much content these people are providing to us, and we must reflect that there is very good quality content here for the amount that they're providing for us. So, tell me what you think. What do you think about Jocko Podcast? What's your favorite episode? My favorite episode's probably, any of the World War I episodes I really enjoy. The Christmas 1914 is a fantastic place to start if you like military history. He does memoirs and books from Vietnam, from the Korean War, from World War I, World War II. All of them are great. I really enjoy all of them. And if that's the type of stuff you're kind of looking for, I can't recommend them enough. So tell me what you think, what are your feelings on it. If you disagree with me, let me know. That's totally cool too. If you agree with me, hey, I like that too. That's awesome. Shoot me an email at rightwronginfo@gmail.com if you'd like me to review any other podcasts that you like. There is a few more reviews coming in this review series before we move on to some other content. If you have any recommendations you'd like to hear me talk about in that content, I'd love to hear from you too. So please go ahead and shoot me an email and let me know what you think. Thanks for your time, guys, and have a great day.